Alright guys, I have a pretty big problem. I have this entire bag of Lego minifigures that I want to display. Now, whether it's Lego Star Wars or collectible minifigures or custom minifigures or whatever other figure you're trying to collect, I'm sure you've run into the problem where you have a whole bunch of figures that you want to display, whether that's for yourself, whether it's just to show off to your friends, who knows, but I'm sure you've come into the thing where you're like, ah, man, I just really want a big wall of these figures stood up or something like that, and you haven't found a great way to do it. So I present you a possible solution, and it's this right here. It's a third-party company called Brix Figure Frames. They made their own Lego-ish, it's not really official Lego, Lego style, I wouldn't even call it Lego style, but it's meant to work with Lego minifigures, and they're called Brix Figure Frames. So I have the box right here it is, and before you click off the video, I really just give this a chance, because this is probably the best thing I have found to display Lego minifigures. I haven't really found anything better than this. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are immediately thinking in your head, well, I know Lego themselves, the company, they make their own minifigure display stands, and they're super expensive, and they don't display a lot of minifigures. So they're not really cost effective. Yes, you can buy these big plastic bins that, house your minifigures from dust and all of that, but you're not really getting a great value for money. They run between $30 to $50, and they're not really the greatest way to display minifigures, especially if you have a bunch of minifigures that you want to kind of condense into one area. Lego solution is kind of, oh, let's just make it big and wide, and it's not a great way to do it. The other solution I'm sure a lot of you have found or thought about is just to use plain Lego bricks and make your own stand out of that. And I thought the same too. Years ago, I spent probably about $300 or so buying bunches of plates and bricks and everything to make my own minifigure display stand of about 500 minifigures. And sadly, what happened was that at least with the design that I went with, which is pretty simple, just bricks and plates that you think would stack up. So I ended up gluing, and I'm sure everybody's just crying right now, but I ended up gluing my minifigure stand, and that was the worst idea ever. It didn't work that great. I used super glue, and it didn't work. It didn't work in the understanding that even if it's still high up, it's still gonna bend over and everything, the weight and everything. So it didn't work that way. And then on top of that, I wasted all of that Lego. So it was a terrible solution. And the problem is with you trying to build a Lego minifigure stand with Lego is that it just isn't cost effective. Now I'm sure the other thing you might come to is using base plates on a wall. That can be a solution, but I personally don't like the look of it. I understand some people do, and if you do, that is possibly a cheaper alternative than this right here. But I want an actual display stand, not where the minifigures are kind of sitting against the wall and stuff, and I don't like the stud look behind it. So if you're like me and you want an actual stand to show your minifigures, I think this company, Brix Figure Frames, is possibly the best solution. So they didn't send me just one of these. They actually sent me an entire box of 120 of these frames right here. So, what I was saying earlier is I'm finally going to have a solution to display all of my minifigures. So without ado, guys, let's go ahead and open these up. Alright, so it took me a little bit to get all the minifigures on here. The main reason is, if you couldn't already tell, these are all 100% custom minifigures from my own Minifigs For You site, link below. Just had to put that in there. But yeah, no, I have been making these minifigures since 2012 now, so this is 7 years of creating custom Lego minifigures. more than half of them being clone troopers, as you can see, all of which I'm very proud, especially it's really cool to see all my DC and Marvel characters. I have like Legend of Korra from the Avatar, The Last Airbender universe right here. It's awesome seeing all of this on display. If you want to check out these minifigures, some of them are in stock. I'll leave them down below. Not all of them. It's next. I've never had the chance to be able to stock all these minifigures at once. But anyhow, it's pretty cool seeing your own collection viewed like this. The stands themselves, as you can see, they kind of wobble a little bit, which it's fine. It doesn't fall over. I don't think it's going to fall over, at least. I'd say you could go another 2 levels. So right now this is 6 levels. You could go 2 more levels, and I think it would be comfortable. You'd be okay. But anything higher than that, I'd have to test. Now, what I could do is I could just take this up and like split this in half and then put it on the top. The only thing there is I know it's going to fall over. I want to see, because if you're going to build really tall, you also have to build really wide. It just kind of makes sense unless you have a lot of reinforcement to build something skinny and tall. If you're going to build taller, you would also want to build wider. So I would want to do that. So I would want to have more of these stands and build a bigger kind of display. If you're building like from like the ground to the ceiling with these, then you definitely, what I would recommend then, if you're planning on doing that, is I think you could do it. The only thing is I would take like a nail in between. You can see there's like gaps between these. You could take like some nails and just put them right through, like just 2 nails every, I don't know, 6 levels or something. And I think you could actually get away with kind of bolting it to the wall if you wanted to go it that way. But then, I'm sure a lot of you then ask, well, again, why not just use Lego bricks to make a stand? And it's hard to tell, depending on the stand design that you go with, whether this is more cost effective or the Lego stand is, because Technic bricks, if you're using Technic rods to reinforce a stand so it doesn't warp, then it gets kind of pricey really quick, since you're going to need hundreds, possibly thousands, depending on how big of the minifigure display stand. This, on the other hand, 100 of these minifigure brick frames, as they call them, I believe they retail. So it's 100 of them is $140. So you're basically paying $1.40 each, which isn't terrible. I'm sure a lot of you are like, man, $140 for only 100 of these. That sounds like kind of like a ripoff or something like that. But I promise you, once you build like a Lego made design, or if you look at Lego solution, it's gonna be just as expensive, if not more. I like this design more because, like I said, you can nail, there's gaps right here, you could easily bolt this to the wall. Ideally, I'd like the company to make, they have all these slots here on both sides. I'd like them to make some type of wall mount so it wouldn't fall over. It might exist. I'm pretty sure it doesn't, but I'll double check on the site. So I still like this design. Now, building it was a little tricky, not because it's hard or anything. It's I guess if you decide to get this stand, build it flat on the table. If you're building it upwards like this, it's kind of tricky because you're having to like get these things aligned because there's slots in between, hence why it doesn't move apart and why it's actually a pretty sturdy structure. So I definitely recommend building on like a very big table flat first and put your minifigures on flat, then put it upwards. Don't build it up like you would normally build bricks, because the way this is designed, it's a little funky. If you saw the time lapse, it kind of broke a little bit. It wasn't a big deal. Nothing actually broke. It just kind of fell out of place. And I've been able to get it all together, and it works. It's a little weird that the design is that you actually take the little frames out like this. I kind of wish it was all one design. I guess the only reason they did that is just harder to mold it if it was all one thing. It's up to you guys. I personally like this solution. I'm sure some of you will just go with Lego. I'm sure some of you will just be like, I don't want to spend any money on a stand. But it's up to you. Here's another thing to think about when displaying minifigures. I'm curious to see what you guys have to say. Maybe I'll follow this up with more of these stands, or maybe a different solution. Who knows? But yeah, I'm actually very excited to finally show off my entire custom minifigure collection, all of which are my own minifigures, which is cool. But yeah, all right. Hope you guys have a great, wonderful day. Bye-bye.